Thank you very much, Janelle, and thank you very much, 3M, for sponsoring our event this morning. To get started, I'd like to just go ahead and start from the left, and if you guys could go ahead and introduce yourselves to our audience to let everybody know who you are, starting with Dallas.
Good morning, everyone. Dallas Fowler from Digital Effects Wraps out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Chad Parrish out of Michigan, Graffiti Wraps.
Adam Sumner out of Burbank, California, Rapix Imaging and 3M's training facility, Rapix Academy.
Good morning, Matt Richard, Digital Effects Wraps, Louisville, Kentucky.
Good morning. Jen Carney with Carbon Wraps and Women of Wraps in Orlando.
Good morning, my name is Austin Smith. I'm with Paint is Dead and Pro Series out of Jacksonville, Florida.
I'm Justin Pate from the Rap Institute, which is pretty much everywhere.
Jim Miller, Atlanta, Georgia, and Miller Decals.
Morning, everybody. Casey Folk from PDX Wraps out of Portland, Oregon.
Luis Tirado with WBC Graphics / Blake Cage out of Orlando, Florida.
Thank you very much. So as a moderator, I have one job, and I'm probably going to be terrible at it because it means to try and stop these guys from talking after about 3 minutes. So instead of, telling these guys to shut up because I hate confrontation, if these guys start running along just a little bit, I'd really love it if you just start cheering them like they just won the Super Bowl. Just give them the biggest round of applause ever so that we can keep things rolling today. My first question, and Luis, this wasn't just meant for you, by the way. I'm sorry about that since you're the first one up here. But my first question for you is about branding. The Florida market is a huge space with a lot of competition. How do you make your shop stand out?
I'm always get the first and the toughest question. First of all, thank you guys for being here. I want to say thank you for Rap Magazine and 3M Commercial Graphic for having us here. I believe it's understanding the customer's expectation, knowing the products that you're working with to provide those customers with the best finished product, understanding what those products are capable to do, how long they're gonna last, what are the warranties, and the expectations. Also, doing your social media, exposing your work, letting the world know the type of work that you do, standing behind the customers at all the time, building relationship, and also I have a program that I run through my company, which is the MCS program, Matching Component System, that offers my customers a peace of mind to have some type of warranty when it comes up to printed film, laminations, and durability and what to expect. And I hope within the 3 minutes so I don't get a big applause. And but yeah, mainly is the build relationship with your customer, giving what they're looking for, don't cut any corners, wrap them up. And basically understanding the product that you're working with, so you know the limitations and what can you do, what you cannot do. So other than that, I think that's pretty much all I can say when it comes down as far as staying ahead of the competitors and branding your own brand.
Casey, next question is for you. When people start talking rap designers, your name pops up frequently as one of the best in the business. Where do you draw your design inspiration from, and how are you able to maintain your standards when dealing with customers?
Well, that's a good question. When I first started designing wraps, I was pretty much a one-man show. I'd take the phone call, I'd listen to the customer and what they wanted, and I'd spend hours and hours. I'd throw everything, put the kitchen sink into a design, and just give them the full meal deal pretty much right off the bat. And I spent a lot of time doing that, and this was 10 plus years ago, And it was cool back then, but then I talked to a friend, a designer friend of mine, and he goes, Case, just simplify things. Don't give the customer everything right off the bat. Just keep it clean and simple. And ever since that, it lit a light bulb off in my head. You're right. I went from wrap designs that you couldn't really tell what was going on to something you could see from a mile away is kind of my goal these days. Case in point, like my shirt, I want people to be able to see, my company business from, a long distance away. And I draw inspiration from, Dan Antonelli. When it comes to like business wraps, I tell my designers, if we hit a wall with a design, it's just like pull up Dan's site and see what he's doing lately. Just the wow factor and using different colors that are kind of off the wall that you don't think work together, but when you put them on the truck, they look really good. And that's kind of the business end is just kind of clean, simple, to the point, so you can understand what that person's business is right off the bat without having to take a second look. And then when it comes to the custom stuff, which is kind of my passion, I draw inspiration from everybody in the industry, from Kevin at PG to Nick at Exotic in Australia, who's just over the top. When I'm doing a wrap and just kind of doing my thing, I'm constantly thinking, what's the next cool thing? What hasn't been done yet? And it's getting tougher and tougher because I'm drawing blanks all the time. It's like, we need to, what's kind of cool now is, I've got a shop of 13 guys, and that allows me to kind of do some fun stuff every once in a while, whether it be on my personal cars or a cool customer car. So I'm always thinking, what's the next cool thing that's going to hit the industry? And I got some ideas, and the thing with that is it takes time. If you're templating a car, I've wrapped cars 4 times before the final product comes out. So it requires some time, and not everybody has the time to do that. So I'm lucky enough to every once in a while to kind of play around with that. But hopefully that answers your question.
My next question is for you, Jim. I don't want to say that archaeologists are finding some of your early work, but you've been doing this a while. What are some of the constants from your first day on the job that are still very important in today's market?
Well, yes, it's true. 2019 marks 40 years for Miller Decals, so been around a while. But one of the constants that's been true from the very beginning, from 40 years ago to today, is hard work and work ethic. It's the things that drive you, and then dealing with your customers, keeping relationships with them, and dealing with their expectations, because anger and disappointment is unmet expectations. And if you can manage those expectations with your customers, showing them showing them what can and can't be done, being knowledgeable in the product, like Luis said, and staying on top of the game, and that's what has been constant all the time. You've got to know your product, know what you're doing, and manage expectations, and just keep learning, like Justin says.
Okay. Justin, my next question is for you. You do training all around the world.
Yeah.
Our audience mostly is here from the United States and all that. So if you could do me a favor and right now, just give away all your secrets that you've learned internationally to give the U.S. market a boost, or just maybe some hints about what's going on in other countries that maybe we can pick up on here.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think I just did a video. I don't know if anyone who's on the Wrap Institute, but last month I did a video with Joffrey Vonderjak from Pro Wraps. And a lot of you know Joffrey. He does really complicated designs with different types of film and knifeless tape, and that's what he's really kind of, that's kind of his name in the industry. But, it was interesting to do this video. I was at his shop about 2 months ago, and when we did this interview, and he's actually pivoted almost his entire shop to where he's almost 100% PPF and a little bit of color change, but no design, no nothing. So a lot of coatings, ceramic coatings and stuff like that. So that's where he's making his money now. So he actually had the courage to, he was in a very comfortable position, and he actually changed his whole shop, and he's making more money than he did before. So I think in Europe, at least, it's PPF and coating. I was just in Japan 4 weeks ago, and it still hasn't caught on in America, but I mean, the amount of dyno and interior wraps that they do in Japan is just stunning. I mean, it's really crazy, all the hotels and all that kind of stuff. And that's for me something that I did a video series on the Wrap Institute 3 years ago where we renovated my house and 3M sponsored the material, which was great. And I wrapped everything in the house, like the walls, the kitchen, the tables, all that kind of stuff. And it was amazing, and the amount of money that I saved in that. So I think if that ever catches on in America, and it hasn't quite caught on for a variety of reasons, but I mean, I think that's the big one is interior for sure. And I think ceramic coatings right now is the big thing. And also, I guess the last thing is the visualizer. So in my booth, if you come to my booth during the show, I have the XIX 3D visualizer with the Xeno, and we got the whole VR system, and that thing is crazy. And I don't know if you watched Metro Wraps, they did a post on it this week. I mean, the visualizer, I think, is the big thing. I mean, if I was in a shop today and I was in America, I would get the visualizer in a heartbeat. So definitely come check it out. If you sign up in the booth, you can definitely play with it and stuff like that. But I think that's the name of the game. So probably PPF coatings and visualizer, for sure.
All right, Austin, my next question is for you. Lifting up the market and playing neutral while still trying to position yourself to make dollars become tricky in the wraps market. What advice would you give the audience about your outward approach in dealing with competition?
I think that everybody deals with competition, and the best way to deal with competition is know your competitor as well as they know themselves. You really have to know what they're good at, what they're not good at. You have to develop a strategy in your market that works for you, that you can execute quickly, and that you can execute, to the utmost perfection that exists. But really knowing what exists out there in the market is key. A lot of the people that get to travel to these events, count yourself lucky because you get out of the local market that you're in, and you get to really see what the national level is doing. Make sure you bring back that national level to your local market. Grow your local market with things just like Justin said, interior, off the wall type of things that other people are scared to take on and try, was the root of my success 10 years ago in starting 201 Wrap in Jacksonville, and still rings true today. We're known as the guys that are the wrap guys in our market, and even other shops that do wraps will refer people to us because they just don't do it to that extent, or they don't go that crazy with it, and we're kind of the crazy ones that'll take it on. So just know what your competition offers, what you offer, and strategically place yourself in your market a step or two ahead, and that may be just in product that you're offering, a step or two ahead. It could be concept, it could be where the market's going. Do all of those things to make sure that you're a step ahead of everyone in your local market.
All right, Jen, my next question is for you. Carbon Wraps is pretty well known for some of its very high-end vehicles. Not saying that my 2005 Frontier isn't awesome and you couldn't do a great job on that, but how do you manage the expectations of the super wealthy when you're wrapping Ferraris and Lamborghinis?
Yeah, so whether they have a Ferrari or a 2005 car, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets the same treatment, whether you have all the money in the world or you're just scraping by. So I think it comes down to customer service for us. We sell not just vehicle wraps, we sell an experience. So when you come to our shop, you meet with us for a minimum of an hour. We go over your car, what you're gonna like, what you're not gonna like. We provide accenting, or we tell you if it's chrome, if there has to be a seam, what we can do to hide the seam. We're very, very thorough with them. We let them know warranty. Your car is going to get detailed, what might get taken apart, what's not going to get taken apart. We take them through everything. They're always free to come in and check in on cars, which works against us sometimes. But they like that. It's an open invitation. We try and send them photos whenever we can. And yeah.
All right. Matt, my next question is for you. You've done some articles for us, both magazines in the past, and you're often gone to when it comes to pricing of wraps and when to walk away from a bad deal. How do you sniff out a bad deal and when to walk away?
When the client says money is no object. That's when you completely run away. I think the biggest thing with a good deal or a bad deal is just rapport with your client and respect. I think when a client respects and values the kind of work and the time it takes to actually produce, whether it's a color change, whether it's a full design and a rebranding, if they understand your process, understand what it takes to get it done, usually the rapport that you have with them, it's a good deal. I think when people don't understand what it takes to do what we do on a daily basis is when the communication's not there, and people don't understand really what's going on and what it takes to get it done. So once you have that rapport with your client and you guys kind of agree of what's going on, I think the numbers flow easier, and you can take care of that client the way they need to. So, but when they say money's no object, I usually run away, because 2 days later it becomes a gigantic object and due by Tuesday. So,
Adam, my next question is for you. You started out as a sign guy, am I right? And came into Wraps. For other people in that position, can you maybe walk us through how you positioned yourself to your current clients to get more Wrap sales?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to make sure that your customers understand what your capabilities are. I think that's the most important thing. If they walk into your shop and you want to sell them a wall wrap and you don't have a wall wrap on your wall, you're making the biggest mistake you could ever make, right? So we've spent the last couple months kind of redoing and redesigning the whole interior of our shop. We have stuff from, matte finishes and satin finishes and gloss finishes on walls, because customers don't understand what the difference is. They're like, oh wait, it's a matte finish. Okay, and then they're like, wait, no, I didn't want that. I want it to be a little bit shinier. And then you put a gloss finish and they're like, wait, no, that's too shiny. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things that when you're trying to position yourself to sell those products to your customers, I think having those representations in your own shop is key. We've got textured graphics on our walls. We're about to re-wrap or actually wrap the entire outside of our building. We've been getting a lot of requests for different things and architectural installations. We have Dynoc installed inside the shop now. It's one of those things that your shop, no matter what area it is, we designed graphics for the inside of the bathroom stalls, right, in our shop. So every surface in our shop should be wrapped, because when your customer comes in there, they're like, wait, I didn't know I could wrap a brick wall. We got this brick wall in our restaurant, and we'd love to put our logo on it. So when we're trying to sell these products to customers, the first stop is to make sure that you're branding yourself to your customers, and the best way to do that is use your physical, brick and mortar location to show your customers what you can do.
Okay. Chad, my next question is for you. You've been getting pretty popular lately, winning a lot of contests. Your face is all over the place at SEMA and such. And of course, the greatest honor of all, being on our Wraps panel this morning. So talk to me about how being successful in competitions and getting your name out there has helped your business.
Oh, Lewis, you thought you had a tough one. I think, honestly, the biggest thing for me is I always start off with a customer is saying I'm an offspring of Jim Miller. And then I follow that up with a smile, it's just kind of how I roll. But no, it's amazing, because you get to the hotel and, you're on the second floor, and as soon as you say Miller, they bump you up to the top floor, which is fourth floor for me. But no, it's crazy, because I'm far, if any of you guys know me, I'm far from anyone that likes fame and attention and all that good stuff. It's more or less that, I surround myself with people that share the same passion that I do. And, I did my first trade show, it might have been 5 years ago, and it was at a WrapsCon, and I placed in a competition, and next thing you know, I'm sitting up here, and it's something I didn't ask for, but it's just something that I went to that show. I got to meet a lot of these guys, a lot of you guys, and it's almost like a family. And when you meet that family that shares that same love, that same passion, and they want to grow, and you can grow as an industry, and I mean, there's nothing like it. So it's actually an honor, and it feels good to be part of something like that. So that for me is what drives me, is to be better with you guys.
All right, Dallas, my next question is for you. Let's talk about artwork and your client, and how you can take one client and their job and turn it into a successful sales opportunity for other clients.
So design-wise, I know that obviously when they come in and through a little bit of brainstorming process and kind of really trying to figure it out, I think it's something over time. Designers, rappers, anything, when you listen to somebody, take it in, brainstorm, figure out what it is. But I know for sure we're successful when they come in for the initial meetings. We do things, we walk them in the back, we walk them through our areas, they see cars being wrapped, I think that's really, and Matt being more in sales knows that that's really when we win, is when the printers are running, we walk them through the back, the installers are putting cars together. And, for us, I like to, when I'm thinking about the design, I try to think about the entire package, because it's essentially, we're all here and the film is great for cars, but I always try to teach people, even in the classes, not to think only cars, think about the walls. And so, obviously with what Adam said, I mean, we've sold a lot of stuff by every door in our building is wrapped, every wall has something, the bathrooms are wrapped. So when they come in, it's like, hey, here's a design that can work for your car. But I'm also thinking too, like how it can work for their business card, how they can take it, okay, paying the fees to own copyrighted images so that they can carry that to their Facebook, to their website, to other things where, it is the entire experience and the package that you give them. But it's also thinking about, how can I upsell them in a sense to where if they do need things, I know for years, us, doing wraps, there was, we didn't know you did banners. We didn't know you did yard signs. So having some of that stuff out and available, but I show images of other things. We actually have a nice, little gallery of pictures and car wraps that we've done for other people. So we have everything from full wraps to partials to boats. It's just something we can say, hey, here's, see what we did for this client here. And I think that's what's been the biggest, help for the entire design process.
All right, we'll bring it back down this end again. Luis, you travel a lot for trade shows to deal with wraps. People who come to these shows, what do you recommend they try to do at these shows, and why is it important for people to come?
Well, actually, this is a must, in my opinion. It's the place where you're gonna find out all the in and outs about every manufacturer pretty much that's out there. They're nowadays are dealing with different types of film. You can actually talk to them directly. You can do a lot of research under one floor. You don't have to go too far. If you're Shaq Perry's neighbor, there's not gonna be much going on up there, so you might wanna travel a little bit. I know that a lot of you guys are pretty busy, don't wanna stop what you're doing. But at the same time, I notice every time I travel, there's a lot of people having a lot of problems. They're good installers, they have good equipment, great facilities, state-of-the-art, but they don't understand the process. So how can you get away with something that you don't know how is it gonna perform now and what to expect in the future? So here is the place for you to ask all these questions. Here is the place where you can come and take a picture with Justin Pay. You can come and shake Jim Miller's hand.
Matt Richard has a kissing booth this year, too.
So, honestly, to be honest to you, I can't believe I'm sitting here right now. But I remember when I started going around, all these guys, I look up to them, and I was always asking them questions. Hey, what about this? What about that? Hey, I've been doing this like this, but do you think we should do it like that? What do you think? And then we share a lot of knowledge. And this is the only place, because if you call me to come to your place and teach you all this little trick, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So come and see us here, pick up our brain while we're here, and so you can take that back home and build from there. So to me, it's very important. I will highly recommend to at least go to the show that has a lot to do with what you actually dealing with on a daily basis. That's going to help you, and it's going to improve your product and your customer service and everything in general. So it's highly recommend to be here.
All right, Casey, I got another question for you. Talking about design, what are some tips for shortcuts and some ways to limit waste in the design process?
That's a good question, and I got a good answer for that. Lately, I have been, when I'm doing either a color change, mostly color changes, I'm templating more now than ever. And what I mean by templating is just analyzing a car like a front bumper or recesses where I know if I put that in there, I'm crossing my fingers. If I do all the right steps, that it's still going to stay. What I do now is I just grab some transfer tape. I pretty much either masking tape or transfer tape, and I create that area. I create a little template. I pull it up, put it on the cut table, cut the material out, and it pretty much installs itself. And if you do it in the proper manner and you do your seams the right way on a body line, it's virtually invisible. And I know when that car leaves that I'm confident that that's not coming back, and the customer's going to be happy. They're not going to question it. They're not going to even realize that anything happened. So number one, templating. I do it every day now. I think Justin was at the shop and we did a video on templating the back of a boat, and that's kind of when I started doing it. It's like, I can take this back of the boat to a front bumper or a recessed tail light area. So that's helped out a lot install-wise. Design-wise, on a wrap, what's kind of cool is we have a design meeting every Tuesday morning at 10, where I have my sales manager, my design manager, myself, and a couple other guys sit in, and we go through our design log of what needs to be designed, and I'm just kind of monitoring it to see how the design's going, and because the designers don't install, so they just want to make stuff look cool, but I kind of analyze it and say, hey Chris, let's move that just a little bit, because that's going to help the install. The installers, quick. Their time's going to be a lot quicker. We analyze whether it should be overlay rather than be in the print, because a lot of new vans have a lot of angles going on, and if you print that, you're dedicated to where that angle's at. If it's a phone number that we decide to do an overlay, you can lay it up there and see what looks good, in real life other than a flat screen. So those are some of the kind of things that we do as far as, simplifying installs and design.
Jim, my next question is for you, is regarding your shop. You've seen a lot of trends come and go. Among the equipment that you have to help you install wraps, what are your must-have items? Or let's just put it this way, if you were starting a shop, what would be the first thing that you want to make sure you have?
Well, starting a shop, buying the stuff, buying the tools, all that, it really won't make you successful. What you have to invest in is yourself. If you have limited funds and you want to start a business, you have got to go with number one. You've got to get out there. There's so much information out there, and I know a guy that's got a lot of videos out that and he can, the videos are, there's good and bad videos out there. Most of us go to YouTube to fix things. We go there and look at them, and the problem with that is there's as much bad as there is good, so you got to really watch it. So I would strongly suggest the first tool you buy is a membership to the Wrap Institute. Okay, give me my money. No, really, it's for sure investing in yourself and your knowledge is the number one thing that's going to make you successful. All the tools in the world won't make you work without knowledge.
Okay. Justin, my next question is for you. Since you do work all over the place, let's talk geography and warranty. What are the 5 most important things you think about in your location when you're dealing with warranties for wraps?
That's a good question. And actually, before I get to it, I just, what Casey talked about in terms of templates, I think it's definitely kind of in the air. And so if you check out the schedule for my booth at the show, tomorrow at 12:30, Kevin Kemp from PG Nola is going to do a whole presentation on making templates for color change. So I've already created the presentation for it. It's pretty dope. So definitely check that out if you can. In terms of warranties, it is interesting. I think right now, I think it's just really, you have to be conscious of where you're at and how the material is going to hold up. I installed in New York for years before I moved to Amsterdam. And in Amsterdam, warranty doesn't come up much because the sun doesn't shine very much, so your materials last forever, which is cool. But, if you're in Texas or you're in Florida, the sun's going to kill the wraps, so your hoods and roofs are going to go bye-bye quick. If you're in San Diego, the ocean, the salt is going to corrode it, So you really have to manage your customers' expectations and really kind of know your material. That's one of the presentations I'm going to do in my booth this year is you really have to know, just analyze the material in full print wraps. There's different laminations that you should use. Are you going to use polyurethane lamination so you get extra warranty? Do you need to use it? Extra cost. Sometimes it's better to spend a little more because your customer's going to be happy. It's also telling your customers that, they actually have to wash the car and they actually have to put aftercare products on it. People get a car wrap and then they don't wash it for 2 years and they come back and they say, this sucks. It's the same thing with paint, so you have to tell your customers. You have to say, look, this is what you have to do, or you have to sell them a ceramic coating, so that's kind of in the air right now. Is it the end all be all? It helps a lot, or sell them aftercare products and all that kind of stuff. So I think telling your customers, realistically how long it's going to last or change it up, I think is really important. I think also, it's a weird thing, is manage their personality. I see a lot of people get these wraps and they get, you try to sell them something that's loud and crazy and they're not that type of person. After 2 or 3 months they come back and they say, this is pretty, I don't like it, it's too much. Like when I moved to the Netherlands, I was doing full print wraps and I was like, I told my wife, I was like, we're gonna wrap our car and it's gonna be crazy. And she's like, no, you're not. And I was like, why? She's like, Dutch people don't do that. And I think Tadashi can say the same thing. Japanese people don't have crazy wraps on the car. It's just not part of the culture. And I've seen that in America. One of the first Wrap Institute videos, a series I made, was a brushed metallic on a red Jaguar. And I did it for my partner's friend, and after a week he came back and he says, take it off. I'm like, why? And he says, people are giving me the thumbs up too much. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that kind of thing. But I would say the biggest thing today for you guys is know your warranties, especially for color change. Those hoods and roofs go after 2 years, and you go online, you say, like 3M sucks or Avery sucks. Well, you suck because you don't know your warranty, So, I feel bad for companies like 3M because they have to deal with stuff. It's outside, you have your phone and 5-year iPhone. Is it out of warranty? Sure. And you go to Apple and say your phone sucks, they will, tell you suck too. So I think it's just knowing your materials is the biggest thing. So.
Austin, we're going to go ahead and talk some liabilities here. How can shops, or what should shops do to protect themselves these days?
It's about relationships. Procure an excellent relationship with a person that sells insurance. Someone who's going to look out for you, more so than you look out for you. Someone who's going to explain all of the options that are available. Not in a dire need, you've got to buy everything type of expectation, but to the degree that you need to know what's available to you and know how in depth today's world is, especially in the US, as far as having liabilities. If somebody walks in your shop to look at this great wrap that you did in the back and they slip on a microfiber towel on the ground, is that your responsibility to manage that? And the answer probably is yes. So knowing when it gets into cybersecurity, knowing if your information is tapped into, if your database that you save all your wraps on is tapped into, and then someone sends you a nice email and says, hey, for 50 grand you can have it back. You need to have protections in place for your business. It will make your business, it's an investment in your business. It'll make it last longer by knowing that you're covered in an instance when things like that happen. And liabilities are all over the place. So you've really got to have a great relationship. And that rings true for business in any element. Is you've got to have relationships with people who look out for you, who look out for your business, who have your best interest in mind. And if you don't have that today, I'd get on the phone, start looking it up on the plane ride home, and make sure that next week you have a meeting with your insurance representative, and make sure that not only you have insurance to the gills, but that you have the best insurance that you can, and know that it's going to protect you in the long run.
All right, Jen, my next question is for you. Considering your high-profile clientele, how do you keep your shop and your staff on the cutting edge of techniques and knowledge?
Like what a lot of the other guys have already talked about, coming to places like this, learning from people like Justin Pate, Jim Miller, Austin, and talking to them and finding out, even talking to your 3M representatives, Avery representatives, what's new, what's coming out. We tell our clients all the time we go to shows, and they get excited about us bringing new things back. When 3M came out with their chrome, we knew exactly who would like 3M chrome. When Avery came out with all their colored chromes, we knew exactly who would like that. So coming to shows like this is really important. But also I think an important thing is learning not just what's new, but other aspects like customer service, negotiating. All those things are really, really important as well.
All right, Matt, my next question is for you. You and Dallas have been working together for a very long time. So either you guys got this thing figured out or you're really good at faking it. What kind of advice would you have for other shops who are kind of having more people than just the one guy at the top?
Don't ever do a partnership. That's a joke, Dallas. It's a joke. I had to say it, man. I had to say it. No, Dallas and I have owned our business together for 15 years, and we worked together prior for another company together for 3 or 4. So we've known each other for a very long time. And I think the one thing that's worked for Dallas and I is we're not apples and oranges and oil and vinegar, but completely, totally different people, but also love what we do. And for those of you know, for 18 years, we've had 2 knockdown fights. No punches thrown, but, you know, confrontations. I don't think that's bad in 15 years. I think for Dallas and I, it took us 5 or 6 years to actually really get the respect for each other, and not only for us, but our employees. So our motto is, do what you do best and delegate the rest. Figure out who's good at what and use those traits and those characteristics of that employee or yourself to the full bore. The great thing about Dallas and I for 15 years is that, yes, I may be more sales and marketing and management, and he's more design and install, whatever, but we both have kind of taken those parts from each other. So Dallas actually dwells more into business now than he ever had before. He's looking at numbers, he's looking at overhead, looking at what we have to produce every week to make sure payroll's met, bills are made, and that we're profitable. And that takes some burden off me, and I think vice versa as well, is getting back there and rapping more and doing some more hands-on stuff. So it's been rewarding, but I think that's why it works, is that we kind of counterbalance each other. And we don't hang out after work. I mean, that sounds crazy, but when you first start a business, all you guys, I mean, you're 80, 90 hours a week, right? Sleeping in the shop. I mean, you're running off adrenaline. But we will go to a graduation, a funeral, we're supportive of each other, but once the doors close, we leave, and we'll see each other again either at the airport or in the office. So
I couldn't consider myself a magazine editor unless I asked who won those fights.
Dallas did.
Adam, my next question is for you. One of the most common problems that all shops face these days is employee retention. What are some ways in which you work to maintain your staff and keep your employees happy?
I found that everyone wants to chase the dollar. Simple, right? When I was more freelance installer than I was shop owner, I chased every possible job I could possibly find and made as much filthy money as I could, right? And that's what every installer inside your shop wants to do. They hear people online, they see videos, they see articles online, social media killed it, you know what I mean? And there's so much information out there that they think they're gonna go out and make $1,500 a day. It's not like that as much anymore. And in order to keep those guys, you have to incentivize them, right? You have to give them something to chase, right? So I give them something to chase, right? I give them commissions, I give them bonuses, right? And that's what I do, because if they're getting a commission on let's say every square foot of vinyl they put down, right? How hard do you think they're gonna work for you? Right? It's simple. You give them a salary of something, and you give them bonuses, right? You give them something to look forward to. You know, I have one guy that some days he averages $25 an hour. Other days he averages $75 an hour, right? It really just depends on how much work he gets done. And for installers, I found that that's now our the new way to do it. You know, there's nobody that's going to work harder for you than some guy that realizes, hey, if I put the time in, if I put my best effort forward, if I'm doing quality installations, I get something out of it. You know what I mean? Instead of just sitting there and milking the clock. So that's kind of in employee retention. I think that's one way to do it. You know, and don't hang out after work.
Okay. Chad, next question is for you. Branding is essentially at the heart of what we do. What are ways that you and your shop work to elevate your brand?
So I'm a little different bird in the aspect of, you know, I'm just a subcontractor installer. So when you say shop, I'm just an individual. But so branding's, you know, it's tough for me in the aspect of when somebody hires me, they hired Graffiti Wraps. They technically hired Chad Parrish. You know, that's who they hire. So, you know, for me, the branding aspect has changed a little bit and trying to realize that. But, you know, for me, the biggest thing when it comes to business for me and keeping the clients that I have is a consistency. And when I say consistency, it's no different what Jen said, and she does every job the same, whether it's a you know, a sticker on a door or a chrome wrap. You know, if I give everybody the same treatment, you know, I 100%, I never shut down. That's always what they get. If I can't give them that, you know, then I step away for a second until I can give them that. And then education. Education's huge for me. And, you know, you see a lot of these guys up here, and every day, you know, you think we know everything, but in reality, materials change, techniques change. So to stay on the education level and to do the trainings, to, you know, like Jim said, Wrap Institute is great. You know, Justin does an excellent job. You know, he does. In reality, he travels around the world. He gets to see different techniques, different installers, different ways of doing things. So, and he puts that out there for us. And I mean, I have a lot of respect for that, because when I first initially started, you know, and Jim, you know, he could say the same, you know, 40 years ago. But no one wanted to share information, you know, and it's crazy, because now you come to these shows and you talk to people and everyone's so open, and that's what I was talking about, that family. It's unreal that people share. But, and then thirdly, you know, look out for the customer. I always look out for the customer. You know, I have two customers. I have the customer that gives me the print, and I have the customer, the end user. So I'm looking at, you know, I look at those customers as the same. You know, I'm not going to treat either one of them different, you know, so I'm going to give them 100%. If I see something wrong, I'm not going to stick it. You know, I'm going to stop that job right there. If it's going to fail, it's going to affect us all three of us. You know, I want the repeat business, you know, so I'm the first one to say, hey, something's not going to work. You know, I always ask questions right off the get-go. First thing I ask for is a proof, material, what we're using, before the customer even sees it, because that way I can say, hey, let's switch it up here. You know, I have experience with that. It failed. I don't want to go down that road. You know, I want that business to come back to you, and I want that business to come back to me. So.
All right. Dallas, I got a question for you. Let's break it down to three. What are the three key elements of designing car wraps?
So I think for anybody new and designers getting into it, if I broke it down into categories, I think you need to create the process that you're going to run your customer through. And then, you know, I guess, designing the, I'm having a moment here. So designing for me, just the process of what I'm running them through. I know that me and Matt have learned a lot over time. Designing smart, knowing that keeping things clean. I know at the shop we kind of hack on Matt a lot because he's the swoosh master. He likes to dodge door handles, but the thing that is smart about it, and that I've learned,
Third fight's coming soon.
yes, is you know, that our installers are able to put it on faster. So I know even in the beginning, I used to design, I thought that's what made it, is in the beginning, you know, 2004, I would try to design wraps so crazy that, hey, they're gonna know that this isn't paint because it's not possible. And then I think over time, and that's where, you know, hearing Casey say it, I'm thinking, all right, I'm in the right mindset, because simplifying things, you know, one of the key things that I do when I sit them down is, after I've kind of showed them the design, I actually will back the design out, or hold an 8.5 up by 11 and hold it up and say, you know, if we can read this here from this far away, we're able to see the car from across the expressway. The designs have to be effective, because if their end user doesn't know what they do, they're not going to come back for more. You know, so for us, and I think, you know, in the design process, I mean, there's so many roads to go down, and I think that's probably what's interesting over time is the experience that we have with customers and the faults that'll happen. We kind of make new rules, and so now when you come in, I think for sure right now is people come in and they want to design for a wrap, and it's like, okay, well, do you have a logo? Because for us, logo is one thing, and, you know, laying out the wrap is two different things. So obviously, it's a great thing when they come in and they have all the elements. So really, you know, I was telling my designer, you know, a couple weeks ago, like, we're arrangement artists. We take the same things. It's different cars. We're dodging door handles. The logo can go here. The website can go here. So for us, I do the design in phases. I kind of like, for me, text and logo placement is one phase, and then background theme is the second. because I don't like for them to get caught up in the background like, oh, I don't really like this fill, or I don't like the theme. But to me, let's agree on the first thing. You know, hey, here's where the logo can be. It can be big right here. We can do the web here, the phone here, or we can reverse it. So for me, I think walking it in phases, because I know I used to go way too far. I would design the whole theme and get everything together, and then go, well, I don't really like that. So to me, I've kind of dumbed it down into levels of, here's placement, okay, now here's theme. Once we've agreed on that, and I've got one side dialed in, well, I'll make the hood match, I'll make the rear match. How's the transition gonna be? So a lot of it is, you know, is like a video game. You know, the more complicated we want the fills to be, all right, well, what's the transition gonna be at the back near the bumper? And so, you know, I think that's where over time you'll kind of craft that, and hone in those skills that'll make it easier. But obviously some of my wraps aren't easy to put on. So I think you got to find the right customer. You got to find what fits for them. And then for those ones that want the little more exotic stuff, I mean, right now there's 3 designers in-house, and we all design kind of differently for different customers. And then I think maybe, you know, the last thing I'd say is, you know, get paid for what you do. For years, it was a thing like, all right, when you do business with us, when you do an experience with us, I'm gonna give you something that nobody else can give you. And I think we probably left a lot of money on the table. You know, we're now, and we know even if you go get a business card, you go get a hat, whatever, there's a setup fee, there's a beginning. Okay, well, cool. Well, how many images are we gonna be using? So, you know, we've kind of got roundabout ideas, and that's where as a designer, when you sit down with somebody, you got to say, okay, what information am I taking? What are they going to want to create? Is it simple? Is it a gradient? Or am I going to create this super realistic background? And you got to know, you know, am I going to be able to create it from scratch in time? Do I need to get on, you know, Shutterstock or get on images and be able to pay and protect me and my customers, you know, being able to buy copyrighted images? So, but I think for sure is getting paid for what you do, and them knowing, I mean, because forever design was, hey, it's going to cost this much. Okay, well, but here's really what's going to happen. We're going to walk it in phases so I don't get too far, and maybe you feel like your time isn't being spent properly. So hopefully I didn't ramble on. There was no applause yet, so hopefully.
I can't say if that's good or bad. Sorry. Thank you. Before I open up the microphone to the floor for questions, I do have one last question for all of you. And if we could start, actually, Dallas, and come this way, and if we could do this without advertising our fellow panelists, that would be fantastic. But what is one piece of advice you would give to this audience, to people watching online later, to anybody out there in the wraps market?
Create process for everything you do. From them dropping the vehicle off, to how you're going to get paid, to how the design's going to do. I think for us, it's A, B, and C over and over. And then as you have experiences with customers, you say, oh man, I didn't see that one. So, okay, well, we got to shift it up a little bit. But I know over the past 2 years, through me and Matt brainstorming and the stuff we've gone through, is creating a step and a process for every part of your business. I mean, that has really helped us. And Matt's a really big stickler of just not letting the customer control us. Not letting them drive us, because we say, well, we've done these vans 100 times. What happened? What went wrong this time? Oh, well, they provided the photo. They provided the measurements because they just didn't want to come by. So, you know, I think we've just gotten stricter and stricter with our rules, and we're in a good place where I feel happy that we can do that and kind of pick and choose. And sometimes we're actually interviewing our customer when they come in. We're thinking, all right, you know, what kind of person is this? And, you know, how can I run this to where this goes smoothly for both of us? And I think a lot of that is communication. So, but for sure, create that process for every step, even if you're just in T-shirts, you know, if you're just going to be doing wraps or walls. So I think that's what's helped us the most.
Oops, sorry. I kind of want to elaborate on what Dallas was talking about prior, and for any of you guys out there designing and just designing, think about the installer. I'm an installer, and there's nothing worse than getting something that takes me 10 times longer. You know, when it comes to design, production, install, all those ducks have to line up, because if those ducks don't line up, it's nothing but a nightmare. You know, when he talks about transitions, you know, between bumpers to fenders, you know, make sure that's clean. Don't give someone a pattern. You know, think about the end result, and, you know, you talk about efficiency and all that good stuff like that. you know, if you slow that installer down, that's money out of your pocket too, you know, because so the biggest thing for me is making sure that all those ducks are, you know, make sure there's communication, like Dallas said, because, yeah, it'll just be a nightmare, so.
Oh, man. I'm going to try and say this as nice as possible. Stop being cheap, right? Everybody seems to want to buy the $100 roll of film to complete a job. I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy that was like, hey, what's the cheapest roll of laminate you guys have, right? What's the cheapest roll of vinyl that you guys have? And then all I would do is reprint the job 8 times to get it right? But I was using the cheapest roll, so I was like, yeah, I'm still making money, right? And then all of a sudden I go out and spend $450 on a roll of film, and it takes me 5 minutes to get a job done. When I was cheap, I lost more money than when I spent more money on the film, and I make way more now, right? Because to me, time is money. The difference between using a film without, you know, we use a ton of 3M film. I'm a 3M trainer. Okay, I use all 3M film. It has nothing to do with me being a trainer. It's the fact that I found that every film that I've tried to work with, that's one that I like the best, right? That's one that's performed the best for me. I carry a couple different films, but for me, I always have something that's gonna make the install easier, because that's where the most money is spent in my shop. The most time is spent on a job in the install. You know, pairing up oh yeah, you know what? Okay, we'll use that good film, but hey, go use that cheap laminate, right? Let's go back to that cheap lam. We'll use a good film so the adhesive's good, but let's go back to that cheap lam. Then we find all of a sudden that the prints are curling up on themselves and they're a nightmare to work with, right? So my one thing of advice is don't be cheap, right? Become knowledgeable in the films and the products that you're offering and what their intended use is, right? And experiment a little bit. You know, you're gonna have to try them. I mean, I've probably opened up the Feller's catalog and bought every single roll that's in that catalog at some point in my career. You know, I didn't know what I liked until I tried it out. So don't get stuck in the just the slow lane, right? You gotta move over and try a couple different things. That's my advice to you.
My advice would be, whether you're starting out or in business, is to stop basically lowballing your business to satisfy cheap people. I've said this before, said it last year. I had a client of mine, and it was a business investment banker, and he said, man, you guys are basically designing and printing and manufacturing and installing custom tailored suits for vehicles, which is what everybody in this room does, whether it's some shape, form, or fashion. And I guess every industry has this, but this is not a race to the bottom. And I feel like that at times it is. This is not a really big industry. If you look at our industry, I mean, it's big, but it's not big. We're not plumbers, electricians, you know what I mean, cabinet makers, but in a way we are. But it's a smaller niche group where I don't think we'd ever be unionized. But the point is, maybe we should, but the point is that just take pride in your work and make sure you're charging what you need to charge. And also let your clients know that in order for you to grow too, you're gonna have to raise your prices if things go on. Labor's more expensive, insurance costs more, right? Everything's going up, but yet everything else goes down. It makes no sense. So just take pride in your work and quit satisfying cheap people. I can beat anybody's price, right? Of anything, so.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest things for us is getting to know our clients. We not only we're not selling jobs, like I said earlier, we're selling an experience. So we get to know our people in a very intimate way. We talk about personal things. Like everyone, we're a family-owned shop. Everyone knows our daughter. We talk about our kid all the time. And that hopefully makes people feel more connected to us. So in the same fashion, when we're talking about ourselves, we're also, like Dallas said, interviewing our clients. Is it somebody that we want to work with? We've learned the hard way that it's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes to every job. You don't have to do every job. If you get a bad gut feeling, follow it, because we've had some bad experiences and we've learned saying no sometimes is just easier to walk away. And that's my biggest advice.
So everyone has said something great. It all fits, it all works. For me, I would say do what you love to do. Too many times in business, we get wrapped up in growing a business. We find that the individual that started the business drifts off into another part of the business. and all of a sudden becomes very miserable doing accounting because that's not what they enjoy doing. So I've always told everybody that I employ, I hire you to do what I feel you love doing. And if you're here in an interview with me, I feel like you love doing what I'm hiring you to do. Everybody that I've hired to come on to work for me does what I'm hiring them to do better than I do, because I'm not good at that. But what I am good at is what I stick to. And I don't try to drift off into other places in the business where I'm not good at that. It only makes my business look worse. It makes me look not as good as I could be. So my advice would be stick to what you're good at and don't do what you're not good at.
I would say I was teaching a workshop actually at 3M headquarters in 2011 or 2012 in Brussels. And I was teaching the workshop, and some kid came up like halfway through the workshop. He says, "Hey, can I show you how I do corners, maybe different than yours?" And he had been rapping 2 months, and his corners were way better than my corners. You know what I'm saying? And it was interesting. I was the one teaching the workshop. I was at 3M. I've been rapping for 16 years, and this kid had been rapping for 2 months, showed me something better. And it was one of those moments where a light bulb went off, and I was like, cool, that's what I'm going to do now. And after that moment, I constantly, anytime I saw something that was better than what I was doing, I incorporated it. And so I kind of checked my ego. So when I started the Rap Institute in 2014, my partner was like, what slogan do you want? I was like, never stop learning. He's like, cool, let's trademark it. I'm like, cool. All right. So my point is, I mean, that's how I've taught workshops. I mean, anyone who's taken my workshop, and if you've taken it twice, the second one's different than the first one. And I'm always picking up new tips and tricks all the time. And I think there's the one person who personifies that more than anyone in this room is sitting next to me on my left is Jim Miller. I mean, seriously, I mean, I think Jim is rapping better now than he's ever have, and he's getting older by the second. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, when I teach a workshop at Jim's place, Jim is like, he's always listening in. He just wants to pick up that one new thing that's going to make him rap better, because he loves to rap, but he runs a very successful shop with Starla, and I think that's the secret for their success in many ways. Is Jim's never stops learning. It's really, for me, Jim, he's a big inspiration for me. So that's cool.
Can I just interrupt real quick and say, poor Starla's, I mean, she's got to feel like she's married to a dinosaur after this sit down this morning.
But the $100 I gave Jim earlier, you can give it back.
Well, my advice, it's our business is based completely on installation. I've been doing it my whole life. So my advice is for the installers out there. It would be it's going to be quick and easy. Make your next panel better and faster and cleaner than your last one. That's it.
Before we started PDX Wraps in my garage, my last job was a design job at a corporation, and I had a real good mentor there. And when I told him that, hey guys, I'm thinking about leaving and doing my graphics full time, they were all for it. And Steve, my boss, the owner of the company, total cool businessman, multi-millionaire dude, he said, I'm going to keep track of you, Case. Go do it. And if it fails, you're welcome back. And he'd stop by the shop every once in a while back in the early days, and he goes, Case, how's it going? I said, Steve, it's going good. Made the right choice. Everything's great. And he goes, are you getting every job? And I go, yeah, I'm getting every job that comes in the door. And he goes, why? And just like, another light bulb. He says, you shouldn't be raise your prices. If you're getting every job, you're not charging enough. And that has stuck with me for 12 plus years. So that's one thing think about that. If you're getting every job, I even tell my guys, Austin, my shop manager, I said, don't be afraid to add that extra $250 or because you always come down, you can't go up, And then the biggest thing at the shop lately is managing customer expectations. You got to do that. You got to let people know what they're getting. Luckily we haven't learned the hard way too many times, but if the customer knows exactly what they're going to get when they get it, you're going to be better off in the long run. And then one more thing, I went to Justin's boot camp, and the thing that struck a chord there with me is seconds equals hours. You can waste a lot of time if you see a bad print coming off your printer and no one says anything about it, and that gets put on a truck, and then you walk by it and go, man, that looks bad. That shouldn't have happened. You just wasted a day. I should have just stayed home and mowed the lawn, because I'm coming back tomorrow and redoing that. So, you know, I tell the guys, everybody keep an eye on everything going on, and if you see something, don't hesitate to question it. You know, the sooner we figure out there's a problem, the sooner we can fix it. So those are kind of three things that kind of stick with me. And one more thing. And I tell my guys also, if you're thinking about what's going on today, you're running behind. You know, I try to get them to focus on what's happening next Thursday. Do we have what we need for that job coming in next Thursday? You know, they kind of get stuck in the day, and which is good. They focus on what's going on. But 9 times out of 10, if I go, Austin, do we have material for that full wrap coming next week? Ooh, crap. Yeah, I'll get on that. So just look ahead. You know, if you're working today, you're kind of running behind. So that's kind of a few different things we run at the shop. So.
All right. So to me, I would say that obviously everybody had mentioned about customer expectation. So if the customer knows what he's gonna get, obviously he's gonna be a happy customer. To me, it's very important to know your inventory. I'm pretty sure if I walk in some of you guys' shop, you have so much vinyl there, you don't even know how much you have left in what roll. You don't know how much cast, how much calendar films you have. I will highly suggest narrow your films. Stick to what works. Obviously, 3M is a great product. Just beside being a 3M trainer, it seems to work for me. It helps me to sell my wraps, my graphics by adding that extra insurance, that extra MCS warranty that ink is not gonna fade. Have a process, just like Dallas says, A, B, C, D. Never skip a corner. Give the customer what they want. And last thing, and one of the most important things to me will be have everything on writing. Never price anything over the phone. You don't want to be put in a situation where you work versus your customer works. So you can talk about prices, you can do all that, but make sure you send an email with detailed information so the customer understand and what to expect. So if something ever happens in the future, you can always go back and refer to that email and forward to the customer, because when the time goes by, nobody will remember. And the worst thing you wanna to do, you wanna upsell, you wanna gain customers, and actually that is the best way to do it. So I highly recommend keep control of your inventory, know what you have on the shelf, have a process, exceed customer expectation, stand behind your product, and have everything on writing.
All right, I'd like to open up to the floor. Anybody who has any questions?
I'd like to go back on what Adam said about how to pay your employees. Do you think it should be like an hourly thing or a set salary with incentives like bonuses and?
It depends on the situation. It depends on the person. You know what I mean? There's no way for me to really perfectly answer that question, because I got no to what you're doing. You know, kind of going with what Luis said though. Everything's got to be in writing. You have to set those expectations, right? If you don't set your expectations for your customers, for yourself, right, for your employees, you're always playing catch up. Right? So you have to set the expectations. If they don't follow those expectations, it's no hard feelings. You know what I mean? You gotta go. I mean, I got a guy that works for me. We've been buddies since we were kids, you know, and I brought him in January to kind of become my shop manager, to kind of run the place, because I do so much outside of the shop. I have so many 3M trainings, and I'm traveling, and I'm coming to events like this, and so I need somebody that can be there, that can be my voice of reason while I'm gone. You know, it's one of those things that I had to set the expectations, and just because we're friends and we've known each other since we were kids, it doesn't mean that, you know, when we're at the shop, that relationship to us, it 100% disappears, which is something that I never have experienced before when I've hired a friend of mine, right? But it disappears. I'm the boss, he's the employee, and we respect that relationship. And I think that's the most important thing. And then when it goes to pay and stuff, it really, it's, you pay based off performance, right? So I'm not going to sit here and bonus you out $300 on finishing that full wrap in a day. If that full wrap, I can't sell it, right? If it comes back, what does that $300 bonus to you do? Nothing, right? Because it costs me not only the $300, but then all the cost to fix it. So you have to get creative with the way that you do it. And again, it's got to be set in stone. You know, we have employee handbooks that everyone's got to sign. They know exactly what their expectations are, right? And if they don't follow them, I have a written out deal saying this is your consequences for not following it. Hey, if you violate this, it may be 2 days off without pay. If you violate it again, it may be a week off without pay. If you violate it again, I might just terminate you on the spot right there, right? And they know what the expectations are. And you set it up that way, there's no arguments, right? You sign this, right? This is your deal. Same thing with pay. This is what you signed up for, right? If you're upset about it, you should have said something in the beginning because this way you were set up, you know? And then have reviews, right? So you have a review, and if they're doing great, pay them some more, right? Because that dude's making you money. At the end of the day, I want to keep them as happy as possible because the happier they are, the happier I am, right? So that's kind of, I hope that helps answer your question a little bit. But.
Next question.
So this question kind of goes out to, it's more directed towards Jim and Justin, but this world we live in today, everyone wants to be recognized. They want to see how many likes or how many views their videos are getting. You know, in our industry, it's extremely small. You got this, for us, we push social media really hard. So we have our face out there all the time. For your installers, for your team, how do you manage that success? They want to be famous. They want to be the next Jim Miller. They want to be traveling the country to do all of these cool things they see on the internet. What is a good suggestion on how you can manage those expectations for the future?
That's something we struggle with a lot. So with our employees, we control social media output, and a lot of, I want them to be the next Jim Miller, to tell you the truth. I want them to learn and take off. I want them to be the next Justin Pate or whatever. I want them to be huge, you know, and some of them are not going to be working with us anymore, but, you know, that's the hard part is, you know, letting go of people. But as far as controlling social media and letting them take off, I mean, we're trying to run everything through our company. So if they do post and it has to be through Miller decals, but that's a tough question. It's hard to control that. I mean,
maybe it's because my wife is Dutch, but years ago, and I mean, she was in television and stuff like that, so I kind of, you know, fame is a weird thing. I've never even thought about it. I don't know. I've never bought a like. I don't even know how to buy a like. I have my followers and my followers just because it happened. And my wife is always just saying it can go away just like that. I mean, fame. I mean, likes don't get you money. Likes don't get you friends. You know, and it's interesting. It is part of the game today. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, there's people in this industry who get a lot of likes and they don't make a lot of money. They don't run a good business, or they're not ethical. You know what I'm saying? So for me, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you have a lot of time to comment on Facebook, you're probably not making a lot of money because. You know what I'm saying? Because you're probably not working. So it's one of those things where, I mean, I don't go on social media very much, for me personally, so I don't have a lot of, I don't know. It's an interesting thing, this whole social media thing. But yeah, I would say, I don't know, it's not something to be attached to. You know what I'm saying? I think it's the people who are, I've actually found the shops that are the most successful, you don't even know that they exist. It's interesting.
I'm going to jump on that real quick, if you don't mind. That was a good question. And I believe that that's an opportunity right there for, like Adam was talking about, the handbook. So I believe that you need to add to the handbook and have some type of consequences, because I do a lot of work for customers, their confidential work. And I bring people to work, and I got to be on top of them and tell them, look, you can take as many pictures as you want, but you need to respect my customers, respect us, and we need to keep it confidential. When you start growing up and you lose control of that, it could be devastating. So at that point, I will highly suggest to add it to the handbook and take the step and precautions.
Can I just add in too, Charlie? Any type of individual who's trying to better themselves rather than the whole organization is you've kind of got bad blood there to begin with. I think what these guys have said I've never conceptualized before as far as a handbook and making sure that you really monitor what's being put out and that it is being put out by the standard company that did it, not everybody in and around it. But I think that's a warning sign kind of early on. There are many people that have worked for me and gone on to be very successful in the industry, and that's great, but I implore them to do that on their own at the time that they leave the company. Then you can make yourself as marketable or market yourself as much as possible. But under a company, the whole idea to make the company work is to work together as a team. And if there's any one person, even the head, that's got to be more famous than anybody else, then there's always going to be a demise there. There's always going to be an issue. So, I work side by side with every one of my guys. I don't need to be the face of anything. I would prefer everybody around me be the face, the entire company be the face of what we produce and what we put out there.
If I could say one more thing, what I'm doing this year different in my booth at Wrap Institute is we have a lot of the hands-on demos. You can come practice film, and I have a lot of set demos with the manufacturers. But I'm also doing like exclusive interviews. Like today, I'm doing Sharif Khan. He's flying down from San Francisco right now. I'm doing Charlie tomorrow. And one thing that's really interesting, I think this kind of comes back to you, is I think what Charlie's doing on social media right now is genius. It's great. So if you can come by the booth tomorrow, I think it's 11:45 or something like that. Charlie is involving his whole company in the social media, which is really quirky, awesome stuff, which is cool. No, but it works for you and it's great. So I think it's one of those things where I would say instead of having your employee do their own thing, incorporate them in the whole company, and that kind of is a really interesting hook. I think it's cool stuff.
All right. Unfortunately, I think I'm out of time here. So I would like to recommend everybody stop in and visit our panelists during the show. They will all be on the floor. They're all great sports about this. And I really appreciate them all joining us this morning. I would also like to thank 3M for sponsoring us this morning. So if you have any more questions after this, be sure to catch up with them as they are working. And thank you all very much for coming, both panelists and guests. Thank you.